Do you want to know how to discipline a child with PDA, Pathological Demand Avoidance? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about PDA behaviors. In this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about PDA, what that is, what it looks like, so that we all make sure we're talking about the right thing here. And then we're also going to talk about how to structure your environment so that people with PDA can be successful, and then how to solve some of those difficult behaviors, especially a lot of that non-compliance stuff that can be so incredibly frustrating. I have 4 children of my own. I'm also a grandmother to 5 children. At this point, maybe more to come, we'll see. Also, for many years, I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens, and I worked through a lot of really extreme behavior and a lot of avoidance behaviors, dysregulation behaviors, ODD behaviors, ADHD behaviors, the types of behaviors that are very similar to PDA. I've also done a lot of training with families who have children with PDA, and they've found great success in teaching the skills and principles of self-government. And I want to get to that, but first let's spend a little bit of time just talking about what type of behaviors we are witnessing when somebody is diagnosed with PDA. It's important to understand that not all places in the world actually even understand what PDA is. PDA is probably more commonly diagnosed in the UK or in Europe than it is in the United States and other continents around the globe. Oftentimes, people associate PDA with just a failure to be motivated, really. Oftentimes, there are anxieties that are associated with PDA. In fact, some people would say they're very acute, very severe anxieties. Anxieties about doing very simple little things like putting on your shoes when instructed to, or going to school, doing schoolwork, doing chores, getting out of bed. Some of the just normal functions of daily life. Some people think PDA is just your basic oppositional defiance. And those things do look similar because oftentimes it's the authority figure that is hearing the no, I can't, I don't want to, and is getting the story about how debilitating it's going to feel if a person has to put their shoes on or go to the store on a shopping trip. PDA can seem quite manipulative. So it can seem like that the person is just trying to gain control of their surroundings and other people. And in a way, they are trying to gain control. They're feeling out of control on the inside because of high levels of anxiety, and so they're trying to control everything else on the outside because the person with PDA sees a connection between the outside and the inside. The outside, I can't control. It's happening around me. I'm worried about that. I'm starting to bubble up and boil up inside. I'm not sure what's going on here. So maybe if I can stop the outside influence, then I can regain more control on the inside influence. So they may not want to get out of bed because they have a test that day at school or because they're having some sort of social problem. So they might go into this severe withdrawal or anxiety because they are saying it's the social problem's fault. It's the social problem's fault. But in reality, you can't control everything outside of you. You can't control everything in the outside world. And this is where people really struggle to combat PDA because they'll go around trying to conquer the whole outside world that's around the person. Like, well, wait, that person doesn't like it that you say that or that you want them to do that. So just don't do that because they're not okay. That's not reality. That's not how life is. And so when we're dealing with people with PDA, we have to recognize that it is our responsibility as their parents or people that are teaching them or helping them, whether in a therapeutic capacity or what have you, that we make sure that we empower them to conquer the world within, whether they can or can't conquer the world on the outside. Their focus should be the self-government. That's what this channel is all about, teaching self-government to another person. That means the person has to have self-awareness. They need to be able to describe what's going on. They need to be held accountable for backing out of everything and not being self-aware and not being self-governed. And I know that can seem really hard to do to a person who's struggling with their anxiety, but they have to have proof that they can control themselves and that they don't need to control the whole world around them for them to actually integrate into regular life. Due to a lot of environmental things that are in our society nowadays, especially related to digital devices and the way that we spend our time, oftentimes more secluded on these devices, how we're able to plan out so many of our digital behaviors, those types of things, many people are actually falling into a behavioral pattern of PDA because they're so used to being able to control things. But when they hit reality, which is that you can't control everything, they shut down, they don't know what to do because they feel like they should be able to have that control of the world around them. The fact that this is actually a fairly newer type of diagnosis shows you that it probably has some environmental components. Now, are there some people that are more anxious than others? Absolutely. And are there some people who might have more debilitating anxiety? Of course. Either way, though, whether it's been brought on by an environmental thing or whether it's something that's part of the hardwiring of the person, that PDA tendency to withdraw, to shut down, to panic, to fight, to control, to be demanding, all of those types of things that oftentimes come with PDA tendencies need to actually go back to the same root, which is, okay, but you've got to manage what's going on inside of you. And so we need to figure that out. If you've already subscribed to this channel, then you know I talk a lot about skills and behaviors and how to solve the problems that we have. So I'd like to spend the rest of my time focusing on that. So what can we do? What type of an environment can we create, a structure or a setting for that person with PDA so that they can be more successful? Well, one thing that we can do is that we can make sure that there are certain times of the day when that person with PDA can maybe have a little bit of control over their surroundings or their decisions that they're making. Okay, so maybe they have a certain block of time, like an hour or two throughout the day, where they feel like they can just, pull back and resort into themselves a little bit, maybe get that refueling, because maybe that person with PDA is actually an introvert and maybe they just need to refuel and have a little bit of time to do that. But then the rest of the time of the day, they need to be able to get out there and do regular life, and they need to be instructed to do so. Even if it hurts, even if it's hard, they need to know throughout the day, you will get this much time. We'll do 1 hour in the morning hours, 1 hour in the evening hours, where you will get to just regroup, reset, and have complete control over what happens during that time. The rest of the time, you're not going to be able to control the family life. You're going to need to follow instructions, accept no answers, be able to talk to people about problems, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be work, but I'm going to help you. We're going to learn the skills that you need. The other people around us are going to learn the skills that we need, and I'm going to be there to coach you along for what you might need to do next. So you just let them know, sorry, we can't stick with the status quo. I mean, that's just the way it is. Even if it hurts, even if it's hard. I know that sounds brutal, but they need to know that they can do it. And the only way that they can know is if they actually can do it. Now, you're not going to start with that plan of the, hey, you only get 2 hours of what you want, and then the rest of the day you have to just get along with everybody else. That's the goal to get to, okay? Initially, you're going to say, you know what, for the next 1 hour or for the next 30 minutes, you need to use your skills. You need to follow instructions, even if it's hard. We're going to practice this. And so you start doing practice skills and practice training all the way along. Now, in this program, the Teaching Self-Government Communication Program, there are 4 basic skills for success. Your child with PDA is going to want to know, it's going to need to know those 4 basic skills. They are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. These 4 basic skills are all broken down to make them easier to use and to assess how we're doing it using them within ourselves. For instance, to accept a no answer, you look at the person or the situation, you keep a calm face, voice, and body. You say okay, or you ask to disagree appropriately about that no answer, and then you drop the subject, which means you don't think about it anymore. Now, dropping the subject for a person with PDA is huge. Because remember the anxiety that I don't want to, I can't, what if? All that kind of stuff is coming into play, and that's why they don't want to take the action and step out of that comfort zone. But what if they learned the skill set for accepting a no answer, and they could recognize life's just full of no answers? So I have to learn to accept those no answers, and I also have to learn how to give myself instructions to step out of that comfort zone when I don't want to. So what are the steps to following an instruction? There are 5 steps to following an instruction. They are: you look at the person or the situation, you keep a calm face, voice, and body, you say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, you do the task immediately, and then you check back. You will have to train a person to do these things, step by step. You may have one target area a day. You may say, today we're going to look at the person. Every time we talk to each other, we're going to look at the person. And that is our plan for the day. And guess what? If they like to manipulate with their PDA, they'll soon say, well, I can't look at you. It's too hard. But then you just have to say, guess what? I know it's hard, but we're going to look at the person. So look at the person, and otherwise we'll have to do a correction. You will want to teach them what you're going to do for the corrections. All of these things I'm talking about can be found in my course, my TSG parenting course, which is on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com, get the skill help that you need there, and there will be detailed instructions for how to do a correction. When you are correcting negative behaviors with your PDA child, you don't want to overreact. You need to be calm and self-governed yourself. It needs to be completely predictable. You're going to want to focus a lot more on describing than reacting, and there will be a full script and process to follow through with. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com, get the TSG parenting course, get the help that you need for your calmness and sanity and for their empowerment.